CBS Young and The Restless spoilers. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is a crazy, rainy Tuesday over here, and we have so much to unpack about the absolute madness happening in Genoa City right now. Grab a massive cup of coffee, because things are getting intense and I have a lot of thoughts. So let's just jump right into the deep end because my brain is still spinning from what we just watched. And honestly, I am still shaking a little bit from the sheer emotional weight of this whole storyline. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that the Newmans have been through the ringer more times than we can count. But this Nick Newman addiction storyline, it is dark, like really, really dark. The writers are pulling absolutely no punches, and I am honestly a bit tired of seeing my favorite characters suffer so much, but at the same time, I can't look away. It's like a train wreck, but a beautifully acted train wreck. Let's rewind a bit to how we even got to this nightmare. A few episodes ago, we saw Nick completely spiraling. Matt Clark, who is honestly becoming one of the most twisted villains this show has ever seen, completely set Nick up in Vegas. He trapped him, messed with his head, and introduced this lethal mix of fentanyl and cocaine into Nick's system. And Nick, our golden boy Nick, the guy who usually has it all together, just completely crumbled. He couldn't stop. The drugs were just too strong. It wasn't just a physical addiction. It was like a psychological warfare that Matt Clark waged on him, breaking him down until Nick didn't even know which way was up. And that led to the crash. Oh my God, the crash. Last week, when Nick hallucinated Matt standing in the middle of the road taunting him, I literally screamed at my screen. Nick slammed on the gas, completely out of his mind on whatever toxic garbage was in his system, and drove straight off a cliff. The visual of that car in a smoking heap of twisted metal, chilling, just chilling. I remember thinking, there is no way he survives this. Who actually believes this is going to end well? Nobody. That's who. But of course, he was pulled from the wreckage, barely alive. And that brings us to the hospital scenes, which have just been gut-wrenching. Nick was brought in completely unconscious, having overdosed on top of the massive trauma from the crash. He fell into a deep coma. And the doctors did not sugarcoat a single thing. They came out into that waiting room and basically told Nikki and Victor that Nick had suffered severe brain damage and that it was highly unlikely he would ever wake up. Just pause for a second and think about that. Nick Newman, never waking up. Nikki's reaction broke me. Watching her completely lose it, screaming and sobbing in the hospital corridors. Melody Thomas Scott deserves an Emmy for that performance, period. It was raw, it was ugly, it was real maternal terror. And Victor didn't say a word at first. He just stood there, completely silent, but you could see the absolute fiery rage burning in his eyes. You just know he was mentally making a list of every single person who contributed to this and planning their demise. That silent Victor is the scariest Victor. So we had this agonizing vigil, day after day, night after night. The hospital room was just filled with the sound of that awful beeping heart monitor. Sharon was there, of course. Poor Sharon. She and Nick have so much history, so much trauma they've survived together, and seeing her sit by his bedside, holding his lifeless hand, begging him to come back to her and Noah, it was a lot. It was almost too much to watch. The fans on social media have been crying about this for days. Everyone was terrified the writers were actually going to kill him off or leave him as a vegetable. I mean, what were they thinking, dragging it out this long? But then it happened. It was late one evening. The lights in the hospital room were dim. Nikki was sitting right there by his bed, probably exhausted, probably running on zero sleep and just pure adrenaline and fear. And suddenly, Nick stirred. Uh, just a tiny movement at first, a twitch of the hand, a slight change in his breathing pattern. But Nikki noticed immediately because a mother always knows, right? She jolted awake, hovering over him, her heart probably beating out of her chest. And he opened his eyes. You guys, the relief in that room was palpable through the screen. Nikki was practically hyperventilating, pressing the call button, crying, touching his face, just repeating his name over and over. Nick. Oh my God, Nick, you're awake. It was such a beautiful, messy, chaotic moment. But the relief didn't last long because Nick was weak. He could barely speak. His voice was just this raspy, broken whisper. But he was desperate to get something out. He was fighting through the brain fog, fighting through the pain, because there was a secret he had been carrying, a secret that was literally eating him alive before the crash. Nikki leaned in close to hear him. And Nick, he confessed. He admitted his mistake. He admitted that he had fallen so deep into the addiction that he couldn't see a way out. But then he dropped the massive bombshell. He told Nikki that he didn't just relapse on his own. He couldn't stop because the drugs were too strong, yes, but also because someone was actively making sure he stayed hooked. Someone was hunting him down, pushing the drugs on him, feeding his addiction to make sure he destroyed himself. And who was it? Who was the monster operating in the shadows? Sienna? Sienna Bacall. Yes, Sienna. When Nick gasped out her name, I literally dropped my phone. I mean, we knew Sienna was unhinged. We saw her stalk Phyllis. We saw her brutally attack Phyllis in that dark basement to rescue Matt Clark. We knew she was fiercely, violently loyal to Matt. But to find out that she was the one actively supplying Nick with the drugs, that she was the dealer seeking him out, making sure his supply never ran dry, making sure the doses were strong enough to keep him completely out of his mind. It is sick. It is so incredibly twisted. Matt Clark couldn't finish the job himself because he was busy faking amnesia and playing games in Genoa City, so he had his loyal fanatic, Sienna, do the dirty work. She targeted Nick. She poisoned him. She is the reason he drove that car off a cliff. When Nick told Nikki this, you could see the blood drain from her face. The sheer terror of realizing that your son wasn't just battling a demon inside his own head, but that he was being actively hunted and poisoned by a psychopath's minion. It changes everything. It's not just a tragedy anymore. It's an attempted murder. And let's talk about what this means for the bigger picture. Victor Newman is going to go absolute scorched earth. We already know Victor was weighing that crazy $2 million extortion demand from Patty Williams to find Matt Clark. But now that Victor knows Sienna Bacall was the one physically handing the poison to his golden boy, oh, Sienna better run. She better run far, far away, maybe to another planet, because Victor's going to unleash hell on her. He is going to tear her life apart, piece by piece. Honestly, I kind of love this twist. Okay, maybe that sounded dramatic, but you get what I mean. I hate seeing Nick suffer. I really do. But from a storyline perspective, Having Sienna be the drug connection ties everything together so perfectly. It connects the Vegas nightmare to the current Genoa City chaos. It gives Victor a tangible target. It explains why Nick, who has always been so strong, fell so hard and so fast. He was being chemically manipulated by a fanatic. But I also have to wonder, is Nick really out of the woods? He woke up, yes. He remembered Sienna, yes. But the doctor said the brain damage could be permanent. Is he going to have memory lapses? Is he going to struggle with his motor skills? And what about the cravings? Just because he woke up doesn't mean the addiction is magically cured. The writers have a real opportunity here to show a gritty, realistic road to recovery, and I just pray they don't rush it. They have a bad habit of wrapping these things up with a neat little bow in 3 weeks, and this storyline deserves better. It needs to breathe. And what about Sharon? She wasn't in the room the exact second he woke up, but you know she is going to come rushing in. How is she going to react to the Sienna news? Sharon has been through so much trauma herself. She knows what it's like to be targeted by psychos. I can totally see Sharon teaming up with Victor, which, wow, what a rare team up that would be to hunt down Sienna and Matt. I don't know, you guys. My mind is just racing with all the possibilities. This whole situation is just a massive mess. It's tragic, it's infuriating, but it is peak soap opera drama. You just have to wonder what the writers are thinking sometimes, putting these characters through so much endless pain. But then they give us a scene like Nick waking up and whispering that terrifying secret to his mother, and we are all hooked all over again. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how Victor retaliates, because you know a storm is coming. A massive, Newman-sized storm. And Matt Clark and Sienna Bacall are standing right in the path of it. All right, I'm going to wrap this up before I start rambling for another hour. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you shocked by the Sienna reveal? Do you think Nick is going to fully recover? And what do you think Victor's going to do next? Drop your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next update. Stay safe out there.